Good afternoon, everybody. The last lunchtime meeting for May. So a very warm welcome on what is a slightly cooler day, and maybe winter's finally arriving. So warm welcomes, and could I ask Peter Cullen to lead us in grace, please? Where is Peter? There, Peter.
Well, thank you. God, grace is a time for us to invoke your presence at our lunch meeting. Thank you for the love you show us and that we in turn show to our fellows. Bless us, the food that we are eating, and to help us to better serve those around us. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Peter. Now, I'd like to welcome our speaker this afternoon, Ian Fay, and he's going to be introduced more formally by Ramsey a little later. He's being supported by Mike Curtis today, so welcome Mike as well for coming along. We have some visiting Rotary, no we don't, we have some guests. So John Preble, you've brought a guest today.
President, can I introduce Denisa Galinovic? Denisa is the member of the Johnson Group who organises the internships for the Skilled Migrants Programme. So when there is a request for an internship for club members, it's Denisa who will contact.
Thank you, welcome. Now, Nicky Riddiford's here as well today, and Nicky's going to be speaking to us in the 5-minute slot, and she has brought along a number of the new skilled migrants who are just completing the program, and Nicky's going to introduce them individually when she speaks. So, Nicky, welcome. We look forward to your speech and your introductions. Do we have any world travellers departing? So anyone about to go offshore? Thanks, Jeff. Oh, to the convention. Well, they are heavily subsidised by all of us, so you might like to put some of the money you won't have to spend at the convention. Isn't that what our levies were for? I'm sure. Now, any people who have just returned from offshore? Oh, heaps of you. And because New Zealand's doing so well and our dollar's so strong, you'll have lots of money left in your pockets. So if they all end up in our saucer, it'd be great. We've got some birthdays. Alistair Finney, is Alistair here? No, and also Karen Dukas. Is Karen here? Gosh, these people who take birthdays off from Rotary and have large lunches, we have to catch them the week after their birthdays. Sergeant Roger Drummond, would you like to come up and take the last of everybody's money out? Roger, what was that noise? Don't they like you?
President Kerry, members, before I start our Sergeant session, or might actually be the start of it, to quote Hewitt, some breaking news, I gather, per courtesy of one of our members, a reliable source, that one of our members at the billiards tournament last week enrolled in the name of that very well-known law firm from Panama, and created great excitement at the Wellington club. The member concerned, could they please pay up? We won't name them to avoid any embarrassment. Members, I thought today with my sergeant session, which is 4.5 minutes to go, Kerry, that I would talk about the Chatham Islands. I've had the great honour and privilege of being the interim trustee to run the Hokitiki Moriori Trust, appointed by the High Court at the start of last year, along with one of your former partners, Ian, Graham Mitchell from Deloitte. And a very interesting exercise, and I just wondered, first of all, would members who have actually visited the Chatham Islands, would they please raise their hand? Right, we should all pay for the privilege as we'll go through. We need to boost the economy of the Chathams. But just some questions before I get into a little bit more of the history of the Chathams. The distance from New Zealand, from the east coast of New Zealand, 1,000 kilometres, 800 kilometres, or 500 kilometres? Those who said 500, please pay up. 800 kilometres off the east coast of New Zealand. The approximate flight time with Chatham Air, which is an interesting question, plus or minus?
4 hours.
4 hours, 3.5, or 3? 3. Those who said 3 correct when the wind is in your direction. Those who said anything above that, please pay up. The time zone. The time now is around about 20 to 1 here. The time in the Chathams would be... absolutely right. Bang on, that's right. And the names of the 2 main islands, well, you obviously know on the Chathams, Chatham Island and Pitt Island. But the Moriori name for the Chatham Islands, does anyone... Yes. Absolutely right. And the year that the British first arrived at the Chathams, 1751, 1791, or 1781?
91.
Absolutely right. And of course, the name of the brig that was the British sailed to discover the Chathams?
It's called the Chatham.
Absolutely right. Yeah, the Chathams. You don't know 100% there. For those who have visited the Chathams, how many pubs on the island? One. And named the Waitangi Hotel, correct. And I think it's one of the only places where you can purchase crayfish tail chips and salad for $20. A bargain. Although there is a small fishing club up at Kaingaroa near the wharf, where because there used to be a brewery on the Chathams at one stage, which they used to have. So just moving along, and I'm just my authoritative source and the most marvellous book by Michael King, who spent some time on the Chathams, because it'd be fair to say it's probably one of the blots on our New Zealand history, and particularly in 1835. And I just wondered whether any members of the club could tell us what happened in 1835. Bob? Yes, that's quite right. 2 Taranaki tribe, Ngāti Mutanga and Ngāti Tama, had been squeezed out of the Taranaki through the Taranaki land wars. Didn't think actually about heading to Samoa to invade and conquer Samoa, which I think would have been quite a tall order, but instead they commandeered a brig and 2 shiploads of warriors from Ngāti Mutanga and Ngāti Tama landed in the Chathams. And I just wondered, before we go on for that, any ideas of the population of Moriori on the Chathams prior to the landing of the 2 Taranaki tribes? 2,000 people, 2,500 or 3,000? 2,000. 2,000. But shortly reduced, well, perhaps ask this question, why was it that the 2 Taranaki tribes were able to slaughter Moriori and really genocide? Because the population reduced from 2,000 prior to the Taranaki iwi arriving to 1,600. So really, a quarter of, or a fifth of their tribes was slaughtered. And I just wondered why, if anyone could just... Yes, Susan?
Pacifists. They were pacifists.
Absolutely. And so obviously paid the price for that with that massive reduction in population. And of course, and it's really interesting to note that following on from that, with slavery occurring in the Chatham Islands, that the population was reduced to 268 in 1848, 32 in 1883, and 12 in 1900. And I just wondered if any members could tell me the name of the last full-blooded Moriori. Please pay up. It's Tommy Solomon. Maui is still very much alive and leading the Moriori tribe. But the year that Tommy died, 1933, 1935, or 1937? Those who said 35, please pay up. 1933. And just moving through that, in 1866, what very famous Maori warrior was imprisoned on the Chathams when it was turned into a penal colony? Those who said to Kuti, you're absolutely right. Those who said to Rapraha, please pay up. But I think it is very interesting as we're looking at Moriori at the moment, because obviously that peace covenant, and gosh, the world needs peace. It's now. And for those who went to the Chathams, did anyone visit Kopinga Marae? Beautiful marae there with the 5 columns. But here's at the back of the neck, because on those columns are the names of the Moriori who were slaughtered in 1835, and they've tried to establish a peace centre on the marae. But just moving on, and the good news is, because at the moment with Moriori we have got 600 plus registered members, but the difficulty is that because of the slaughter that took place in the slavery ready and with forced children with Ngāti Mutanga and the Moriori woman, there are a lot of Moriori who feel ashamed about their background and refuse to recognise their whakapapa, and that's an active work in progress. But they are now in negotiations with the Crown, and fingers crossed, because if anyone is able to do the right thing for Moriori, it's Minister Finlayson, and he's very keen to try and progress a settlement there. But for those of members who think, well, that's more of taxpayer money heading out, just an interesting question about that, and for those who've been around, how much did the Crown receive in selling cutting rights to the Crown Forest licence blocks in the 1990s? 3.2 billion, 4.2 billion, or 1.2 billion?
1.2.
Those who said 1.2 or 4.2, please pay up. It was 3.2 billion. But I think the interesting thing about that, and I just make that comment, is that the fiscal envelope was introduced in the early 1990s of $1 billion. Well, the Crown had received a huge amount of money through selling those cutting rights, gross 3.2, but I would have thought Suzanne might give us a quick calculation, maybe a shade high of 2.1. I can see, Kerry, I'm going to finish right now, but please, I think it's really important that we do understand the position in our history, particularly relating to Moriori, and we have an influential club here, and I think the word needs to be gone through, because Minister Finlayson, as I said with Tūhoe, if anyone's going to do it, it's him. Anyway, thank you all.
This is why lawyers' bills are so high. They say 4.5 minutes, and that was about 8. It'll just be a 5-minute invoice, they say. Nicky, would you like to come up now and take us through the Migrants Programme and its results? Thanks. Warm welcome. Thank you.
President, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having us here again today. This is the 12th year that the Skilled Migrant Programme has been running, and I'm here today with the 21st intake of the programme, so it's pretty fantastic, isn't it? We've been coming along for so long. And before I introduce the members of the current class, can I say my thanks to the following people. To the guest tutors who come along every week and practice job interview skills. It's a great need for people who are new to this country. Helen Auga, Brian Hassel, Peter Lawson, Yusuf Mora, Joan Smith, and Tony White. To the people who come along regularly, just as the guest tutors have done, perhaps for 11 years, the guest lecturers who come along and talk about their specialty. Helen Algar, Denisa Galinovic from the Johnson Group, yet to come and talk to this group as Helen is coming next week, sorry. Peter Lawson, Brian Lynch, Lady Susan Satyanand and Anand Satyanand, Jeff Shaw, Carol Stigley and Lee Wilkinson. Thank you very much. For the mentors who have agreed to accompany the graduates of this particular group through their jobs searching time when they move on from this program. And as you'll see some of these names too of people who have been mentors many times in the past. John Boshier, Marion Cowden, Alexandra Hare, Gray Hewson, Andrew Miller, Yusuf Mora, Peter Sherwin and Mark Stevens. And thank you too to John Emanuel and Roger Drummond who did offer to be a mentor, but in fact their proteges have already found a job, so they're not in just at the moment. Thank you to all those people who have been mentors in the past. I know that many of you are still in touch with your proteges, even though the formal 6-month period has finished. And even years later, I hear stories about what members of this club are still doing for the skilled migrants they were linked with. Thank you for that. And to the Vocational Service Committee, Andrew Miller, the Chair, Derek Gill, the Mentor Coordinator, and Lee Johnson from the Johnson Group. The mentoring relationship that Derek puts together is always very, very crucial, as I mentioned before, and many thanks to the Johnson Group. Internships are a vital part of this program, and thank you for all your work, Denisa, finding such great internships this time round. And I'd like to thank also Mark Woodard, Mark Wheeler and Tracy Brown for their help in finding internships for this particular group. And now can I introduce the current members of the group, and they're going to stand up as I mention their name. So this is Alexandra Ganusheva from Russia. She has a background in the oil industry in Russia and has done recent training here in New Zealand in accounting and is looking for a role in that area. She's just about to finish her internship at MB. And this is Rio Honggowijoyo from Indonesia. He is a management accountant, has worked with HSBC and KPMG over many years in Indonesia and Singapore. Is that right? Yes, Indonesia, sorry. Yes. And the good news about Rio is he's just had a job offer from an accounting firm. So just waiting to complete the formalities for that. Lydia Maestroni from Italy, who has a background in HR and administration. Karina Yamjal from India. She's actually a teacher of commerce and accounting from a tertiary institution in India, but here in New Zealand she's decided to look more for accounting admin role. Ivan Imamura, who is from the Philippines and is a chemical engineer and a chemist. Currently he's has an internship at one of the university labs called the Raman Lab, and he has worked in the power industry in the Philippines for many years. Andrei Aminu from Romania, who is a graphic designer with many years of experience and lots of energy. And Jola Ledelmeyer from the Netherlands, who's a network and systems engineer, and currently is doing her internship at Pharmac. And Aubeny Reynal from France, who is a marine biologist and has a great interest in conservation biology and is doing her internship at MPI. And Victor Matinde from Zimbabwe, who has had a long career carrying out UN assignments in the area of law and the rule of law. And he was going to speak to us today, but in fact he's just accepted an urgent assignment in Iraq and left yesterday and probably is arriving today, so unfortunately he won't be able to speak today. We actually started this class with 13 members, and apart from Victor, there are 4 other people in the class who have already found work, so it's pretty encouraging when people find occupation during the course. So here we are, we've had about 215 graduates since 2005, not including this group, that will make it higher. The class who visited the club in October last year, there were 11 in that class, and 9 out of that 11 are now working in their professional area. It's all very good news. We have funding from MB until June this year, and with the opportunity to renew for 1 more year. So let's hope we're safe for 1 more year. So thank you very much, everybody. This course couldn't work without the support of everybody here in the club. Probably almost most people in the club here have had some role in this program over the years, and I am very grateful, and I know the Skilled Migrants are very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicky. That's fantastic. As I just heard someone else say, you do a great job. So congratulations on the work you do with the Skilled Migrants. We're going to have our fellowship break now. We've got about 8 minutes. We'll start at 1 o'clock. So if you'd like to go and help yourselves to tea and coffee and cheese and or dessert. And we'll start again at 1. Thank you.